ونور قلوبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. نوينا تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير، ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى، مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. Alhamdulillah, we are on the next chapter عن مقدمة حضرمية في فقه السادة الشافعية لتأليف الشيخ العلامة الفقيه عبد الله بن عبد الرحمن بفضل الحضرمي رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين. By the scholar Abdullah bin Abdurrahman Bafadl. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us by him and by his knowledge in both abodes. Right, where he has said, so now we're on the chapter on fil ijtihadi fil waqt, on striving or ijtihad in determining the prayer time. فصل: ومن جهل الوقت أخذ بخبر ثقة ويخبر عن علم. So the first thing he says, and whosoever is unaware, right, of the coming of the prayer time. So previously we spoke about the prayer timings, the 5 prayer timings, and the different parts of the prayer timing. Right, so when we speak about ijtihad, we speak about about figuring out the prayer timing the best of your ability. Right, so the last time round we spoke about the shadows, right, and that is to figure out the prayer timing directly by yourself, which most of us don't do. Right, most of us don't actually go and measure the shadows, right, of objects to know the prayer timing, but rather we go on experience. We actually, because we have a clock, right, and we go by the clock and we go by experience, right? So our experience is that usually in our country around 2 o'clock is already Zuhur time, usually, right? That is our experience in a country whereby the timings do not vary very much. They don't really vary beyond half an hour, plus and minus half an hour, right, around there, right? As opposed to countries whereby the timing can really vary throughout the year. Okay, right. So whosoever does not know the coming of the prayer time, he should take the words of the one who can be trusted in telling him the coming of the prayer timing. Right. So for us, we depend on calendars, right, that is produced by our Islamic body, right, the official Islamic body MUIS, right, or we take the calendars, or we trust whatever. Whenever there is azan on the radio, right, we trust the azans of the masjids. Right, we trust even the prayer timing on apps, which sometimes we don't trust it. We don't really trust. Right, so depending on how much you trust, right, these things. So we tend to more trust what you hear on the radio, right, and what you hear from the masjids, right. Then so this will be taking the words of the one who knows, right, that who is trustworthy, right. Thiqah, right. The word thiqah means someone who is trustworthy, right, the one who can be trusted. Thiqah. Right, so he is credible, he is trusted, right? So so al-adl, thiqa min al-adl, meaning that he knows about the issue about the prayer timing. And that is the meaning of thiqa. Right? So if you say that, but cannot trust the words of so and so or whatever, right? But if regards to the prayer timing, they can be trusted, and you trust them. Right? So as long as with regards to the issue at hand, right, they are trusted, you can trust them, right? Or أذان مؤذن واحد أو صياح الديك مجرب, right? So, or the presence of caller to prayer, a muazzin. So if you have heard the muazzin giving the azan, and the muazzin has thiqah, that means it's a trustworthy muazzin, And even if there is a great number of muazzin, right? So you trust of course lah, we trust the calling, of the prayer timing of the muazzin. With regards to a trained rooster, right? So for it's not that the rooster will crow for every prayer time, right? But for specific prayer times, right? So if the rooster is known and is mujarrab, meaning it has been trained and tested, this rooster, that every fajr, the rooster will crow. It will crow at a time of fajr, right? So no matter what, it will crow at the time of fajr, and you can trust the rooster, right? Then you can act on the crowing of the rooster, right? If you know there are roosters that do this, right? And if all the above are not met, then you must perform ijtihad. And what is ijtihad? فإن لم يجد اجتهد بقراءة أو حرفة أو نحو ذلك. Right? So if you're unable to, if there is no muazzin, there is no person to tell you what time is the prayer timing, right? And then you have to do an ijtihad, right, about the prayer timing, and you do it to the best of your ability. Right? So with regards to ijtihad, right, so you can do, for example, with recitation, right? So recitation, or with an act the like of determining the prayer time. Right? So what does this whole thing mean? Okay, what it means is that first and foremost, right? So if all of these on top here, right, is not present, and you're unable to determine the prayer time from the shadows, right? But you know by recitation. For example, if like for example, you can tell Maghrib by looking for the sunset. Okay, so Maghrib is easy. You can tell Maghrib by the sunset. Right? So if it's your habit that whenever you pray Maghrib, right, by the time you finish praying Maghrib, right, and you would pray your sunnahs, right, and you recite all your recitations for the night, like Surah Yasin and Surah Dukhan and Surah Sajdah and Surah Mulk, for example, Right, so after you pray Maghrib and you pray your sunnahs after Maghrib and you do your recitations, usually in your own hometown, you will hear the azan for Isha. Usually. Alright? So by the time from the azan Maghrib, you performing all your rituals, all together. By the time you finish your rituals, the azan of Isha will have sounded already. Alright? That is your experience. So if let's say for example one day you go out camping, you go out to the wilderness, you go out camping, right? And then your watch is spoiled, or your phone is missing. You lost your phone, you lost all sense of time. And you can't sense time. Okay? So you look at the sky, you can see the sunset. So when you are fully certain the sun has set, that is easy. You know that it's Maghrib. Okay, so it's Maghrib, you pray Maghrib. Okay. And you're like, Allah, I learned in class about the red tinge in the sky. Then you look at the sky, I have no idea what is the red tinge. Then you look, apa entah red tinge? And you're like, no clue what is the red tinge. How do I know when it's Isha? No clue when it's Isha. For example, I have no idea how to tell Isha at all. Okay, or the sky is overcast, right, with clouds. You cannot see any tinge. What tinge talking about? And there's no tinge. Okay, so but then by the time you finish praying Maghrib, you pray your sunnahs, you read your recitations, right? Usually it's already Isha by then. Alright? So from experience, you can already pray Isha. Right? Because usually by the time you finish all of these things, you're in your own hometown, azan already. And in fact, it will take a longer time after the azan to finish up all your readings, and then you pray Isha. So by recitation. Okay, it's your habit. Right? That is habitual. Right, so you kind of know it is Isha by now, right? Even though you can't tell, from your surroundings, like or even with regards to like someone is kept in a cell, right, or in a jail and cannot see the sky at all, right? So for example, the jail wardens tell you, okay, it's Maghrib or it's sunset. So tell me when it's sunset. Okay, it's sunset already. It's sunset. Okay, so you pray Maghrib, and then they left. They left you there locked up, and they left for the night. So after sunset, they left for the night. So you're like, Allah, I can't tell when it's Isha. So you can do all your readings and everything. Then you can say, okay, by now it should be Isha. By now it should be Isha, that kind of thing. Or by performing an act. So for example, if right? Like right now, right? You're having your class. Right, so you're having your classes, right, Mr. Khalid? Usually, right, by the end of the classes, right, if you were to go and eat lunch, right? It means you have a class, then you eat lunch, right? By that time, it's already Zuhur. So by habit, it's already Zuhur by that time. Usually lah, it's usually, right? So or maybe make it easier lah, and something else. Like for example, work, right? So for example, if a person, usually, if she from morning after subuh, right, she's a tailor, for example, right, and she can sew 50 clothings, and by the time she finishes 50 clothings, right, she will hear the azan for Zuhur. Okay, that's her norm. Alright, so after praying subuh, she goes into sewing her clothings. By the time she finishes her work at 50 clothings, she will hear azan Zuhur. That is mujarrab. That means it's been happening every single day like that. Okay, if one day, for some reason or other, she's unable to hear the azan, okay, or she's overseas something like that, in another place, but in the same timing lah, in the same you say in the same time location, right? She's somewhere else, and there's no mosque nearby. She can't hear the azan. She's finished sewing her 50 clothing. Can she deduce at that point in time that it's already Zohor? The answer is yes. She can. She can deduce it's already Zohor because it's by habit. Okay, by habit she knows by now it's already Zohor. Okay, and so like for our kids also, if they're in school, they know by the time school ends already Zohor. It's usually school ends around 1:30, 1:30, 1:45 around there, right? So usually it's in Singapore, very rarely our Zohor is later than 1:30, right? Very rarely. Right? Usually the furthest it will hit is 1:20 something, right? Usually lah. Right? So 1:30 usually very rare that is Zohor after 1:30. Okay, and so on line and so forth. Okay, so like if you know you finish your work by 5, so you know in Singapore usually by the time you finish your work is asar already. So you I think almost never asar will go beyond 5 o'clock, right? So or start at 5 o'clock. It's usually around 4:40 the most it goes, right, in Singapore. So you can go by experience. Okay, so performing an act, right, or the like to determine the prayer timing. Okay, and a blind person can choose to follow someone who can be trusted or performs ijtihad. Right, so performing ijtihad in prayer timing, if one is certain that his prayer is before its timing, then you must make up for it. Right, so even though at the points whereby you are praying, right, even though at the points whereby you are praying, you are certain the prayer time has come in, but if later on it comes to your attention that you were wrong, you must repeat the prayer. Must. Okay, that is why when we speak about jama' taqdeem, jama' ta'khir, it's always recommended to do ta'khir. Right? Why? Because ta'khir, even if you got it wrong, you have delayed the timing, it will fall as a qada anyway. It will be counted as a qada anyway. But if you did taqdeem, if you brought the prayer timing forward, if you got it wrong, the prayer is not counted. Right? So prayer done after its time can still be counted as a qada. It's counted as a make-up prayer. But prayer done before its time is counted as nothing. It's counted as a sunnah. Right? And so if let's say for example, you did your ijtihad, or you heard an azan, and you prayed Zuhur, for example. Right? Then it came to your attention that azan is actually wrong. Or the azan of a phone. Maybe the azan on the phone was actually 1 hour before Zuhur, for example. So it came to your attention that you were wrong. So even though you had full certainty at the point of praying Zuhur, you have full certainty that it is Zuhur and you pray Zuhur, doesn't matter. You are wrong. Right? So now you have full certainty that you are wrong. So must you pray Zuhur again? Yes, you must pray Zuhur again. Your first Zuhur is not counted. Right? So on this note also, at the point of praying the prayer, you must have full certainty that the prayer time has come in. You must. Right? So if let's say I wake up from my sleep, and I see it's the afternoon, I'm like, maybe Zuhur. Not so sure. Let's pray lah. No, your prayer is not counted even if you are right. Even if it is Zuhur, your prayer is not counted. Right? Because you have no certainty that it is Zuhur. You must have certainty that it is Zuhur for it to be counted. Okay, right. So if you pray the prayer before its timing, you must make up for it. It is recommended for the one to make up a missed prayer immediately. Okay, with regards to making up prayers, right? If the prayer was missed on purpose without any valid Sharia reason, then you must make it up as soon as possible, right? So, for example, someone, went for a movie. I'm going to watch movie. Astaghfirullahalazim. I go and watch movie. Right? When we watch a movie, the movie was from, for example, 4:30 to 7 o'clock. All right. So 4:30 haven't asar yet. Didn't pray asar. Okay. Asar was maybe at 4:35 or something. Oh, but want to catch the movie or want to catch the concert, whatever it is. Right? Things that are not permissible for us to do to miss a prayer. Right? So want to watch a concert, go there at 4 o'clock, sit down, watch a concert until 7:30. So the concert, and so not worth it. To miss your prayer. Right? So asar completely missed. Okay, so the moment asar goes out, that means asar has ended and maghrib comes in, the person's sin is being counted. The dosa starts, right? So, and the dosa is a continuous dosa, It's a continuous sin. It's continuous until the prayer is performed. Until the prayer is performed. Okay, it's for the one who missed the prayer on purpose, right? Without any Sharia excuse at all. So the dosa is continuous, right? That is for the one who missed the prayer on purpose. Okay, so dosa all the way until the prayer is performed. Right, so it comes the question, what this is now scary, right? So now I say, what come the questions? What if during my childhood, right, I missed a few prayers, quite a lot of prayers. In fact, I'm not childhood, but my teenagehood, for example, and my teenagehood in school, I miss a whole lot of prayers. And some people, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Okay, yeah, man. Okay. Okay. Right, so some people, right, they missed their prayers from the time. They only start praying properly when they are in their 20s or 30s. Okay, some people. So they reach puberty when they are what, 12 years old? Right, 12 years old, all the way until they are all the way until they are 20, right? How many years is that? 8 years, right? 8 years of not praying. So such a person, hold on, I have this get there. Careful. Allah. So such a person, right, 8 years of not praying, right? So that means all these 8 years, all those are counted non-stop, right? Technically, yeah. Technically, yes, those are counted non-stop. But just the silver lining, once you taubat, okay, so once there is a repentance, right? So you at 20 years old or 30 years old, find out about the importance of prayer and everything, all that. Okay, taubat, repent. So once you have repented, the scholars say, the sins are forgiven. That's our husnul zan of Allah, our good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sins are forgiven. All right, sins are all forgiven. Okay. And then the sin clock also stops. the ticking sin all stops. Everything stops because taubat, sincerely repented already. The sins are forgiven, right? And the sins are no longer counted. Okay, but the prayer is still owed, right? The utang is still there, right? The debts is still there. You still owe the prayer, right? So the prayer needs to be made up, right? So which is why they say that you can take your time to make it up, because it's a lot, right? So to spend all the time praying is not possible, right? So you can take your time to make it up, but do it quickly lah, because you have to make up all the prayers that you have missed. Okay, right? So for me personally, right, while there are people out there who will say you don't have to make it up, right? But I will hold the opinion that make it up. Right? If you're able to do sunnah prayers, then all the more you should be able to do qada prayers. Okay. Okay. But however, if you did not miss however, if you missed the prayer by a Sharia excuse, okay, there's a Sharia excuse. For example, you overslept. And like a one-time occurrence, you overslept, right? Or you forgot. I honestly forgot. So all Sharia excuses, we learned it in Safinatul Najah previously, and all valid Sharia excuses why you missed the prayer, right? So must you make up the prayer immediately? The answer is no, right? But you can take your time to go and make it up, as in the story of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when they overslept and they only woke up in when the sun was high in the sky in the morning, right? It was bright and shining, the sun, right? So it uh, uh, the sun woke them up, right? They missed subuh. They completely missed subuh. And the sun woke them up. It was hot in the sky. They woke them up, right? So when they all woke up, they were like, hey, haven't prayed subuh yet. No, all of them missed subuh, right? So they were on a journey, and they were travelers, right? So he traveled a bit more. He traveled, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He woke up. They traveled a bit more. Then they rested, and then they performed subuh. Right? So from here we understand from the Sharia that was said by that was demonstrated by Rasulullah, it is not compulsory immediately. All right, but that is like that an honest mistake. So that them missing the prayer was not sinful. That's why it's not compulsory immediately. It was not sinful. Like they were not sinning, right? Because it was not done on purpose and it was a one-off situation. Right? So it's not like a regularly every morning wake up late for subuh. No, right? But it is like a one-off. Right? They were so exhausted, right? And it was a one-off. And it happens, sometimes it happened to me when I was traveling a lot, right? So the entire jet lag and everything like completely can really mess you up, right? So I remember there was one that I traveled back, and my alarm, usually I wake up early in the morning, and do my prayers, but for some reason the jet lag was so bad that I completely did not hear any alarm whatsoever until way into 9 a.m. in the morning, because of the jet lag being really, really bad. Right? So it was a one time. It happened one time. You woke up and you panic. You say, what time is it? Right? Because of your body clock being messed with, right, as you travel back and forth. Right. So that kind of situation, you don't have to immediately pray. It's sunnah. Right? It's sunnah to immediately pray, right? But it's not wajib to immediately pray. You can take your time. So you get up, miss subuh, and then you're hungry, go eat breakfast first. Okay, go and wash up. Can you take a shower? Yeah, you can take a shower. Take a shower, right? And then we'll do everything. Okay, go and pray subuh. Okay, a one off. It's a one off situation. Okay, all right. This question here. Um, okay, waking up from a state of coma, is it considered oversleeping? So for as long as the person is in coma, right? If they don't have, if they're not aware, right? So you need to know if they are aware or not. If do they have a consciousness, right? So which is why if someone is in coma, you should be doing azan in their ears, right, every prayer time, and you should be doing like a wudu for them every prayer time, so they can actually pray in their mind, and they can pray in their they can pray in their mind. Okay, um, Naam. Right. So so they can still pray lah if they have consciousness. So that what makes the prayer compulsory is consciousness. Right. So if they have absolutely no consciousness, like sleeping has no consciousness. Right. So if they are unconscious and they can't sense their surroundings, right, then when they wake up, the prayer was not compulsory on them, right, in the first place, because they were completely unconscious. Right. They are not people of they have no idrak. They have no consciousness, right, for them. Okay. All right. So they just continue as they are, as opposed to someone who's sleeping. Sleeping is different, because sleeping you can come into consciousness. Okay. All right. Okay. So if one is certain that his prayer is before its time, meaning okay, it is recommended for one to make up for his missed prayer immediately. So it's sunnah. He should prioritize the make up of his prayer over the present prayer at that particular timing, in which he is not worried that the prayer timing would lapse. Right? One should prioritize making up the missed prayer, even though one is worried that he will miss the present prayer in congregation, right? So so basically you should prioritize making up a missed prayer. If you're not fearful that you'll miss the current prayer, right? But if you're fearful you'll miss the current prayer, right? So for example, if you miss Zohor, you slept through Zohor, for example, you woke up at 4:15. Okay, no, so you sleep through Zohor, kan? Okay, so you sleep through Zohor, so maybe you slept at 1 before the coming in of Zohor, and you slept, maybe you're exhausted, right? Slept all the way until 7, right, p.m., right, 7 p.m. So you woke up, and you're like, hey, like, didn't even pray Zohor, and Asar is almost coming out, right? So you go and pray Asar first. Like, go and quickly can get Asar, right? And then you can pray your Zuhur Qada. Right? However, if you woke up around 5, right? Woke up around 5, haven't prayed Zuhur yet, miss Zuhur. So go and pray Zuhur first because there is time to pray Asar. Okay, so even if it means that you will miss the congregation, and that you miss the congregation of that current prayer, it is better for you to do the qada of the prayer that you need to qada off, right? So which is why the scholars will say that if you're going to do tarawih, you might as well spend the time, instead of doing tarawih, for you to actually do qada prayers. If you have a whole load of qada prayers to do in your life that you have not done the prayers, then you do your qada prayers instead of tarawih. It is more virtuous, it is more rewarded, it is better, right, for you to focus on what is compulsory on you than to do what is not compulsory on you. Okay, Naam. Right, it is obligatory for one to make up the missed prayer even if it was missed without a valid excuse. Right, so ويجب المبادرة, so it's ويجب المبادرة بقضاء الفائتة إن فاتت بغير عذر. Okay, I'm going to change this translation. Right, it is obligatory to make up a missed prayer immediately. Mubadara means immediately, right? If it was missed without a valid excuse. Okay? Right? It's obligatory to make up all prayers that you miss, right? Whether it was, so if you miss with a so ويستحب المبادرة بقضاء الفائتة. Right, so it is recommended to make up a prayer that is missed immediately if you have a valid excuse. You put down here if you have a valid excuse, but it's recommended to make up immediately. وتقديمها على الحاضرة التي لا يخاف فوتها وإن خاف فوات الجماعة فيها. Okay, right, that is correct. And but here change the translation. Remind me to tell Ustad. Okay, he told me to tell him if there's a off translation. That I keep forgetting to inform him. I think in the previous parts of this book, if I have pointed out wrong translations, tell me. I forgot where I pointed out. Right, so if you know you wrote down somewhere in your book, wherever I corrected the translation, you tell me. Second tell Ustad. I didn't know to tell him or not. And then he was like, then he messaged, he told me that, Ustazah, as you teach the book, you find mistakes, please inform him. Nice, and I have not been informing him all the mistakes I found. Right, so it is compulsory. It is compulsory or obligatory to hasten, right? To make up, to hasten, mubadara, or to do immediately, to make up. Okay, all right. What to call it? Okay, all right. Okay, I wanted to mention with regards to ijtihad. Okay, so المراتب الاجتهاد دخول الوقت, right? So it's in the shara of his book, right? So basically with regards to determining prayer time, the levels, right, of determining the prayer time. Let me just clear all drawings. Okay, so the levels of determining prayer times. Okay, so levels of determining prayer time. Level meaning what is best, then next, then next, then next. Okay. Okay, number 1, right, is yaqeen. Yaqeen, I'm certainty, right, by you yourself Right? Certainly by you yourself. Right? So you yourself measuring the seeing the shadow or sun or sky. Right? So with Zohor is shadow, with Asar is shadow, with Subo and with Maghrib is sun, right? With Subo and Isha it's sky. Okay, this is what you're gonna see. All right, that's the first level. So of course that's the best level lah. If you could do it yourself, right? And determine the prayer time every single day. Okay. Secondly, second best level is information. Right, information, informed, right, by or information, right, from someone with knowledge. Okay, information from someone with knowledge. Khabar alim, right? So information from someone with knowledge. Okay, number three. So the basically number two is the azan at the mosque. Right, the azan at the mosque is someone with knowledge. Okay, number three, clock. Right, this is where I am. Most of us are at number three. Right, clock. By looking at the clock, right, that or rooster. Rooster counts as a clock. Clock or rooster. That's number three. Right, number four, um, by action. Okay, right, so number three, khabar alim bil ghaib. Okay. Okay, so this is for clock or rooster. Number four. Okay, is information from someone who informs, who got information from someone who knows. Okay, technically number three and number four similar. Okay, number three and number four similar, right? Because basically, like you don't hear directly from the one who knows, right? So but you're hearing from someone who heard from someone who knows. Okay, right? So that's like how you look at the calendar. Right? So you look at the calendar for the prayer timing. So you're being informed by the person who printed the calendar, who was informed by for example, Muiz, who was informed by the people who know how to predict prayer times. I'm not sure what they're called. Right? Are they called um are they called astronomers or astrologers? I don't know, but basically that I know how they predict prayer time also. They go by what? So don't know. Can Google how are prayer times predicted? Right, through the year, like to the very minute. How do they do that? So don't know. Like, I think that there's some sort of geography or astronomy about it. Allahu alam, don't know. Right. So that is, and then number five. Right, the fifth level is by work. Right, by habit. By habitual work. Okay, and then number six, right? It is by deciding. By basically deciding. Right? So somebody has no way or means, right? Of now from one to five, nothing at all to inform this person of the prayer time, then you just basically have to just decide. Just decide that it's prayer time. Right. So for example, if somebody is tied up in a jail, or locked up in a jail, and then complete no access to all five, right? The person knows they have to pray. They have to pray somehow or other, they have to pray. Right. So maybe every day this person decides to pray the prayer randomly. Just decide. Okay, I'm just gonna pray Zuhur now. Pray. And then after a while, okay, I'm hungry. Probably it's already asar. Pray. Right. So maybe even by hunger, because your stomach is quite habitual. So if your stomach is if it's a habit for your stomach to eat at 2 p.m. every day, so if you are locked up, and you feel hunger at 2 p.m., for the first day, after all the stomach, the habit of the stomach goes away, right? But if the stomach, for Ramadan, right? For Ramadan, when you come into Ramadan, the stomach habitually becomes hungry, and then only for the first week or the second week, then after that, the stomach kind of gives up on doing that, right, to you. Then it stops getting hungry at 2 p.m. Right? So if you're habitually eating, right, at these particular timings, right, then your stomach will ask for food at this particular timings. Right? So but once you stop giving it food at these particular timings, it will stop asking so after a while. Right? So that, but if let's say the person like, okay, right now I think it's Zuhur. It's been long enough. It's probably Zuhur. Then you pray Zuhur. Then you wait for a while. I think it's long enough. I think it's Asar. Then you pray Asar. So it's by deciding, because there's no other way or means to decide, to figure out the prayer timing. Last year, if I'm not wrong, not last year, I think previously with yourself into Najah, I went through with you all determining the prayer timing on the aeroplane. I've still not checked out the apps that they have. Right, so I don't know the apps. They have some apps, right, whereby you can tell the prayer timing on the ground that you are flying over. Right, so you can't go by the time on the ground. In the aeroplane, right? If you look at it, this is like, there's this screen. There's one screen that will tell you ground time, correct? And so if you're flying from Singapore to go to Saudi Arabia, right? You fly over India, for example, right? So they will say the time on the ground is 12 p.m., for example, right? So that kind of thing you can't actually use because you don't know what time is Zohor in India, right? Unless unless you can Google what time is Zohor in India, and India is a big country, right? So like, where are we over right now? Are we over which part of India? You have no clue, right? So you can't actually tell. Are you in Zohor? Because Zohor can be anywhere between 11 a.m. in the morning in some countries, right, to 3 p.m., right, or even 2:30. Right, Zohor can end. You can usually have no clue, right, are you in Zohor timing or not, right? Except if you look at the sun, right? So if you look at the sun, again on the aeroplane, you can't tell the shadows. You usually totally can't tell the shadows from the aeroplane, right? So I think the last time I went through with you, all right, how do you tell on the aeroplane screen, right, where you are and how you should be doing your prayers? Okay, so just a recap, right, for those of you who have forgotten, right? So again, ijtihad, all under ijtihad. How do you determine the prayer time? Let me see if I missed out anything first. um Okay. Okay. Tertib in doing your qada is sunnah. It's not wajib. It's sunnah to do tertib in your qada. So if you miss a whole lot of prayers, it's sunnah to go subuh, zuhur, asar, maghrib, isha. But it's not wajib. It's sunnah. Let's see. Right. So the ruling is, if you were to miss prayer on purpose without a valid excuse, then you should not be doing anything that you don't have to do, um uh besides praying the prayer. Right. So by right, the ruling is by right that if you have missed prayers, right, you're only allowed to do actions that you need to do to survive in your life and spend the rest of the time performing the makeup performing the makeup prayers. And by right, but it's difficult on a lot of people, and they can't do this. Most people, they can't do this. It's difficult on them. So the scholars will say, okay, put aside an amount to do every day. Right? So if you missed like 8 years of prayers, right, then okay, make a promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every day I'll do one whole set. Okay, to make it up, and for the next 8 years of my life, I'm going to be doing this one whole set. And it's just try your best. Right? Or 2 sets or 3 sets, right, in a day. So if you have like a goal that you want to achieve, right, so you can quickly make up your prayers. Right? So if you do 3 sets of prayer every day, and if you have 8 years of prayers undone, then you're kind of done in 2.5 years, right? In your qada. It's not much. It's okay, 2.5 years to do 3 sets every day. And then it gives you training on performing the prayers more. Right, mashallah. Okay. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay. Let me see if I missed out anything else. كل شيء في زمن الماضي لا يصح الدخول إلا نعم شبهات. Okay, I've covered most of it. Okay, most of my notes I've covered. Okay, just a last note right before we end our class. It's now already 2:14, right? A last note on, okay, one question here, right? To clarify prayer upon yaqeen in the prayer timing, does ijtihad mean that you only have zon in the prayer timing, or you must also have yaqeen in your ijtihad? You must have yaqeen in your ijtihad, right? It is not you to perform the prayer is on certainty that the prayer timing has come in. Right? So it's not zon, but it's yaqeen. Right? But here, number one, the yaqeen here refers to you yourself see it with your own eyes. That's what I mean by yaqeen. Right? Any ainul yaqeen. With your own eyes, you see it. Right? Other than that, the rest of them, the rest of them is yaqeen by ilmul yaqeen. Right? So it's not ainul yaqeen, but it's ilmul yaqeen. Right? So your yaqeen is based on knowledge. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna do the thing about the aeroplane, right? So there's a brief recap. We've gone through this before, right? If I'm not wrong. I'm sure it's confirmed with me. I've done this before. Right. So with the aeroplane prayer timing, okay, there's a screen, right, on the aeroplane, okay, whereby they have the map of the world, right? The map of the world is here. Okay, so you have like so let me just draw a very quick map of the world lah. So you have like India, right? And then you have like Asia going on here, and then you have like Arabia here, kan? And it goes up, and then you have like Africa, right? And it's a big continent, and so on lah, like whatever it is. I said map of the world. Okay, in this map of the world, right? They usually have this thing whereby they will show you day and night. Kan? Faster and they'll show you day and night. Right. So they kind of I think they draw it like this. Correct? Like they do like a curve on the aeroplane. Correct? So basically this entire part is night. Right, this entire part is night. This entire part is day. Right, the one that is in the center, the whole part is undo. The whole part is D. Kan? This whole part is D. Okay, so usually, right, where we will determine where the prayer timings are. Okay, so we're going to start from Zohor, eh? We always start from Zohor. So I'm going to use red. Okay. So if you're a traveler, you're gonna jama anyway, because you're a traveler, right? The issue is when to do your niyat. Okay. So if you're a traveler, Zohor and Asar, I would say jama ta'khir. Because jama ta'khir is always safer in case you got it wrong. It's gonna fall as a qada anyway. Right, so ta'khir Zuhur into Asar. But with ta'khir, you need to intend the ta'khir in the timing of the first prayer, right? Okay, so you're going to assume here to be midday. Okay, right, so if your aeroplane is flying, try your airplane, and we're going to end our class soon, inshallah. If your airplane is flying, right, this is the aeroplane, wherever it is flying. Okay, they usually have an aeroplane icon, right? They usually have an aeroplane icon, right, to show where the airplane is going. Okay, so this should be like somewhat midday. Okay, right. So you cannot kind of guess that Asar is on this side, right? Because this is the sunset. Okay. So what you're gonna do is that the moment the airplane goes past the midday mark, right? What usually I will do my intention several times. Okay, I will intend my Zuhur Ta'khir several times. So near the middle line, I will intend to Ta'khir Zuhur. Middle there, I will intend to Ta'khir Zuhur. Towards there, I will intend Ta'khir Zuhur. I will only pray my Asar when it's very near the sunset. When the aeroplane is here, right, then I will pray Zuhur and Asar. Okay, I'll pray them both, right? Jamak ta'khir. Because here I have full yaqeen is already Asar. Anywhere before that, I don't have yaqeen. I don't know when's the Asar. Right? But I know close to the sunset, confirm Asar already. Right? So I have yaqeen of Zohar and Asar. Okay. With regards to Maghrib and Isha, simple. Right? Once the sun has set, you're going to ta'khir Maghrib into Isha. So you need ta'khir, right, at any point after sunset. You need ta'khir Maghrib to Isha. So when the sky is completely pitch black, pitch black, like you're going to pray your Isha. Right, so when it's completely pitch black, or can play some here also up to you. right? You can pray your Isha, Maghrib, and Isha. Right, Takhir. Okay, Subuh. Right, Subuh's on this side. Right, so Subuh, right, this is the daylight, right? Okay, so once the aeroplane comes nearer towards the daylight, you're gonna look into the sky. Right, you look at the sky. Once you can see the sky brighten, right, but still less than sunrise, brighten, then you pray Subuh. Okay, Subuh. All right. Okay, and for me personally, whatever I do on the aeroplane, I qada when I'm on the ground. Because in case a mistake somewhere, I will still qada all my prayers that I pray on the aeroplane, I'll qada on the ground. Right? Because especially the qibla lah and everything, all that, like it's a lot of things. So I have a lot of, so while I do it with yaqeen, yes, with yaqeen, the best of my ability, right, I will still do a qada, like of it. Okay, so therefore